Hey. Cultist. Where did you put Soth's Man Reaper? He has to have it tomorrow. Dranon yelled to Cultist. Mastor, it is over there. We cleaned it too. Is Mastor happy now? She asked. Dranon looks at the table where Cultist pointed. There it was, Soth's Shining Man Reaper. Yeah, what Eve? Dranon stopped at the middle of sentence and looked at the Man Reaper. It was clean, shining without any diseases, plagues or rot. Cultist had cleaned it so it was completely useless now. Okay. That's it. I've had enough. Hey asswipe, get your worthless ass here right now. Cultist ran to Dranon as fast as she could, looking at Dranon with a smile that showed all her pointy teeth, like she was expecting for some kind of reward. Yes, Mastor? She asked. Dranon gave her stern look and pulled his half-erected manhood from his pants. It's your time to say hello to Dranon Jr. Cultist gasped and then blushed. We. She tried to say but Dranon interrupted her. We either please corn or Slanesh, I don't care which, so the choice is yours, Dranon said, chainsword in other and dick in other hand. Slanesh. Cultist replied submissively. Fine. Get on your knees. He commanded and Cultist did as she was told to do. Dranon ripped her skirt away and found himself staring in Cultist's tight ass. Damn that Slanesh. He thought. He placed his hands on Cultist's lower back and slowly, expectantly ran them down over the girl's lower back, onto her firm behind. Unable to keep himself from smiling a gleeful, wild smile, Dranon adjusted the position of her slender legs and, with each of his thumbs, pulled the girl's cheeks apart. Cultist tensed. She knew what was coming from the moment her master's thumbs had dug into the meat of her behind and pulled it apart. She had never, ever tried this before, and now this. This thing would be the first to take her ass? She shook her head, her hands balling up into fists. There was nothing, absolutely nothing she could do. Dranon had, finally it seemed, placed the tip of his hugely thick cock against Cultist's sphincter. In quiet resignation and beginning resolve to make it through this as well, the young Cultist stared out over the warp, trying to ignore the monster behind her playing with her cheeks, trying to squeeze the huge cock between Cultist's buttocks, a task that was quite impossible due to the simple fact that the head of it was almost as big as one buttcheek. It seemed almost as if that thing had become larger, but Cultist quickly got other things on her mind as her master's big and strong hands ran to her waist, where they latched on in a vice-like grip. Half a second later, Cultist felt as if someone was trying to force a chair up into her ass. Her rear was pushed inwards as Dranon gradually put more pressure on the huge cock. It was uncomfortable, but not painful as such. The pressure was mounting, and the young Cultist was beginning to writhe uncomfortably, but there was no pain. Then, it seemed as if something within her let go, and the pressure against the outside of her small, tight ass abated, only to be replaced with pressure inside as her pelvis bones began to creak and move, her insides rearranging to make room for the huge cockhead that was lodged inside Cultist's ass. In a delayed reaction, pain lashed through her body almost as if an earthquake had hit her and only her, the force seeming to dwindle only preciously little as the sickening pain continued lashing through her form, culminating in an insane scream of complete agony. With the frenzy of someone fighting for their survival, Cultist clawed at the ground in front of her, screaming and sobbing, legs kicking and hitting Dranon's back. None of it slowed her master down. He kept still, in his mind likening himself a little to the center of a tornado, almost meticulously watching that thick meat force into the struggling girl's small ass. It was a delight, feeling how he would add almost a third to Cultist's weight just by forcing this cock into her ass. It was a delight watching how her body almost seemed to be eating up the wide, pulsing cock, so stretched was it. There were almost no buttcheeks left to be seen. Cultist's hips and pelvis had moved outwards as 5 massive inches of cock had been forced in after the cockhead. Just for this occasion, Dranon had let this cock grow to 22 inches and let it become about 2 inches thicker. It would kill Cultist, or it would have if not for the exceptional receptiveness this girl had shown for Dranon's cum. The girl fed on it readily, and it helped her get over things that had easily killed previous lovers. Gradually the kicking against Dranon's back died down. He kept a steady pace, forcing his wide, veined, much too large cock into Cultist's stretching ass at about an inch every 10 seconds. This meant that after about 2 full minutes, the entire, pulsing cock was hilted in Cultist, who at this point had lost most of the sensation in her lower body. It was no problem for Dranon to hold himself completely in his submissive victim, pelvis against butt, so much had the cock pushed cultist's pelvis and thighs out of shape. The sobbing, writhing form under Dranon that was now almost a third cock was still feebly trying to claw forward, mouth hanging open, spittle hanging from chin in strands of hair, her eyes at once wild and absent. Her insides had been pushed around, bones bent, so impossibly much pain had been inflicted on her in the last 3 minutes that she had lost touch with reality for the time being. Dranon leaned forward, releasing his grip of the girl's bulging waist, instead placing one hand flat on cultist's back and the other on the sand to the side. Keeping the body below his in place, he began slowly, deliberately pulling his huge dick backwards, out, until about half of it was outside cultist's abused body. In a long, fluid movement, her master pushed 11 inches of thick cock into cultist's ass, spending just 20 seconds this time. He repeated the movement, setting up a slow pace. As the minutes passed, his speed had now approached the brutal speed of pounding those 11 inches of cock into cultist's ass in two, then finally. 1 second. The young woman was in shock. She felt every jolt of insane, all-consuming pain, but she could no longer react. She was drooling, gradually being pushed forward through the sand from the force of Dranon's pounding. All the power she could muster was reaching a shaking, claw-like hand forward, digging fingers into the sand in a feeble attempt at dragging herself away from the torture and into sweet, oblivious nothingness. Nothing happened, except the rhythmic, crushing pace of Dranon's cock thrusting in and out. Even as he grunted and the meat started quaking in orgasm, he never stopped thrusting in and out. Hot, sticky cum blasted into cultist as that huge shaft just kept plowing in and out, until the orgasm abated. Dranon was finally breathing heavily now, as the cum-smeared, pulsing cock slowly left cultist's insides. At last, only the first half of the head was left inside the girl's abused body. Her master reached a hand forward and grabbed a handful of cultist's hair, pulling the girl's head backwards while he leaned forward himself, whispering while panting. That was the beginning. Now we start. For real. He held cultist by her hair for a while longer, pressing finger to cultist's teary, drool-covered, bruised face before leaning up again. He kept a hold of the soft, sticky hair with one hand, the other hand pushing vein shaft down. As hot, viscous cum started leaking past the huge cock, Dranon edged a finger under cultist's ring muscle and, with a little help from the cum, managed to widen the opening just enough for the rock-hard shaft to make room for itself and glide in again. Cultist was barely able to use her legs, yet was held up on her knees by a combination of the huge cock in her ass and the firm grip of her dark brown hair. Behind this abused girl sat a bigger, older Chaos Space Marine with monstrous cock jutting from her pelvis, clearly in the process of impaling the girl halfway kneeling in front of her. Powerful scent of Dranon's first explosion of cum was carried on the wind far into the woods, and the full curves of the rapist's victim jiggled ever so slightly with every trembling movement. Cultist's pelvic bone was flattened, her sides bulging, her body stretched so far that her feminine form was only vaguely visible around her ass. With a firm grip of his minion's hair and one hand gripping the grotesquely bulging waist, the veiny, thick, unrelenting cock was forced inwards, into cultist. The young woman's vision began swimming, then failed completely for a few seconds, her hearing coming and going, breathing rasping. Her mind had shut down the pain. She could clearly feel the indescribable agony racking her body, yet she could do nothing. She could not react. Her mind was trying to rationalize this, trying to cope. Cum leaked from her stretched ass as the massive 22-inch monster were forced into cultist's body, the girl's front beginning to bulge just above her belly as the cock began to near hilting. In another, nearby world, cultist was halfway kneeling, her eyes closed and her mouth open in a moan. Her arms were reaching back to her own ass, holding it open as Dranon's cock were driving into the young woman's behind. One hand held cultist's hair in a demanding grip, the grip of a master, while the other was playing with the woman's clit. Slowly, as gently as such a huge girth would allow, this Dranon pressed the cock all the way into cultist, the girl arching her back as much as the cock would allow, as pleasure racked her. After another blink of her eyes, cultist was back on the beach, cum dripping from her gaping ass, her face once again covered in drool and tears. Finally, her voice returned to her, her body convulsing, a rasping, desperate scream sounding over the abandoned beach as the huge, thick cock were thrust into her ass once again. The first of a series of hilting thrusts that left Cultist completely powerless and sobbing with a pain so intense that she could feel nothing else in the world. Her vision had reddened, scream upon helpless scream sounding as her front bulged and sucked in time and time again, the massive cock pumping in and out without pause. Then, for what seemed like a fraction of a second, Dranon hesitated. He was sweating, gasping for air, on the verge of his second orgasm, but he hesitated. He had stopped in the middle of a brutal thrust. Now, he began to pull back. Then the moment was over, and he brutally forced himself to the hilt into the small, abused body impaled on his cock, gritting his teeth as she convulsed, the cock sending 1, 2, 3 huge bursts. Cultist was out of any semblance of will or strength, and collapsed back on her stomach, thick cum oozing her from her gaping ass. Permanent damage had been inflicted to her psyche on this beach. She was vaguely aware of that before she fell off the precarious edge of conscience she had been balancing on the last minute, into the embrace of darkness. It had been 10 minutes since Dranon had had his last orgasm. Time to get up, Dranon said to Cultist. No reaction. Get up. Dranon repeated, raising his voice. Still no reaction. Hey. Are you fucking deaf? Dranon said, silently laughing to his joke. Dranon poked Cultist with tip of his boat. No reaction. She was dead. Again. Fuck. She's gone. Dranon covered his head to his palm. She's gone. He thought again. Wait. She's gone. She's gone. She's finally gone. Dranon yelled, cheering, without noticing that he had in fact started to yell aloud. Oh well. At least for some time. Guess she will obey me better next time. Now that she's gone, for a while, I can do whatever I want. He realized. Dranon was still for a moment. Oh what the hell, he thought, lighted cigar and went to sleep.